With the Voth moving through the gateway and the joint command occupied with the main fleet, it's down to us on the prototype USS Dyson to pursue them and hold them until reinforcements can join us.
Navigational readings indicate we are in the Delta Quadrant. However, we are inside a Dyson Sphere, and there are no known structures of this type in this region. I'm detecting the presence of a Starfleet vessel, the USS Gold. That ship disappeared on a survey of the Jenolan Dyson Sphere at the precise instant the Iconian Gateway network was reset to save New Romulus. This sphere was discovered by the crew of the USS Jenolan in 2294. The USS Enterprise D rescued Montgomery Scott, a survivor of the Jenolan 75 years later. However, it now appears that the Jenolan Sphere had the same jump capabilities as the Solanae, and moved to this location with the Gold inside.
So this explains why Starfleet lost contact with the USS Gold. It was jumped along with the entire Jenolan Dyson Sphere.
I am detecting disabled systems on the Gold, but there is no weapons damage. Also, sensors indicate that the Voth Dreadnought has its weapons armed, but has not fired. What do you suggest?
Well, first we need to see to our people. They may have more information on this sphere. And this Dyson Sphere was the first discovered by Starfleet in 2369 and in the episode Relics. I'm glad to see it wasn't forgotten about. While the Enterprise may have then left on its adventures, Starfleet evidently dispatched research teams to learn about this megastructure. The latest vessel is the Gold, a Trident-class research vessel under the command of Captain Trenranala. It looks damaged but intact and powered.
Thank the prophets. I knew someone would find us. We were on a routine survey in the Jenolan Dyson Sphere when something happened. Systems that have been dormant for centuries activated. The energy readings were off the scale. Then a flash and...
We are aware of what happened and there are more ships on the way.
My nav computer claims we're in the Delta Quadrant. If that's right, this entire Dyson Sphere somehow moved itself more than 50,000 light years from its previous position. Since then, we've been stuck. I would have taken Voyager's path back home if we could get out of the sphere. The doors were locked tight and the gateway powered down as soon as we arrived.
I wouldn't follow Voyager's path, they flew right through Borg transwarp. But yes, this entire sphere has seemingly jumped to the Alsuran sector of the Delta Quadrant.
Glad to have the help. Supplies are running low. But what was that ship that just passed us? Shares some signs of Voth tech, but our databanks don't have anything like that.
I'm not surprised. Before access to the Solanae Dyson Sphere, we knew little about the Voth save for what little was recorded from Voyager's logs. They were a society that followed a strict doctrine of scripture that held them as some of the oldest life in the Delta Quadrant and therefore the rightful heirs to a vast area of space. Their advanced technology placed them leagues above most neighbouring powers, which only served to add to their sense of superiority, deeming mammalian life in particular as inferior, a seeming reoccurring trait with reptilian aliens in Star Trek. Their portrayal in Star Trek Online, however, has them moving from mere arrogance into full-on aggression against the Alpha Quadrant powers, and I'm not sure how I feel about this from a lore perspective, because they came off as wanting to have nothing to do with others, not wishing them harm. I suppose we simply just didn't see this side of them. We didn't encounter any military sections to their culture in Voyager, so they could use mechanised exosuits and genetically engineered beasts such as the V-Rex, and we just didn't see them. Commander Chakotay's experience was very much centred around their scientific and political community. I mentioned before that as they lived aboard vast city ships, it makes sense that their military vessels would be named after fortresses, bastions, palisades, all defensive structures, not a civilian populace like a city suggests. And this is a nice touch that helps smooth the transition for me. They've been attempting to seize control of the Solanae Dyson Sphere in order to harness its Omega particle generators, but the ancient state of this sphere risks Omega detonation, something Starfleet cannot allow, and this has brought them into conflict. The USS Gold here has been out of contact with Starfleet for several weeks, it seems, if they were transported when we activated the Iconian network, so they missed the subsequent events, the discovery of the sphere, and our involvement with this Delta Quadrant native.
Another Dyson Sphere? It's taken us 40 years to study this one, and we're not even close to understanding it. And if that ship was Voth, it would explain why they ignored our hails. They came in with their weapons armed and then simply stopped. Didn't see us as a threat. The ship set course for the sealed door and is just sitting there. They're ignoring us. I promised my crew we'd get home. If you could send over a team with some spare components, I can get this ship ready to travel.
Admiral Tuvok sends over repair teams to the USS Gold and then turns to us with some more information.
I have extensive experience with the Voth. While they are arrogant, it is not like them to completely ignore a potential threat. It may be that they sense a greater danger. I suggest we approach and attempt to hail them. Voyager found that some Voth were open to negotiation. We should make every attempt to find a peaceful solution.
The Voth Citadel Dreadnought is the size of a city ship and based on the same design, it seems, though it too is dwarfed by the 200 million kilometre sphere. This construct is notably different in terms of its architecture from the Solanae sphere. However, we are orbiting at a higher altitude. Well, not orbiting the surface, but the star, though the ground is above us. No, on the inside. The buildings are smaller, so they must be further away. The look of the Solanae sphere technology has a very distinct purple and white look to it, and from this altitude we cannot tell if the buildings mirror this design, though there do seem to be less pronounced towers, so perhaps this was built by a different race. The Solanae served the Iconians, so perhaps this is the result of a different culture's interpretation of the same technology. The Voth vessel is sat, pointing at the main gate with its weapons armed, not moving an inch. We tentatively manoeuvre the USS Dyson to approach the colossal vessel and offer a timid hail.
Warning, ship is under attack.
The Voth lock us in a tractor beam, holding us firm, as if to say, "We'll deal with you in a minute."
The Voth are moving towards the door.
Tuvok?
Your query will have to wait, Doctor. Shields are down and we...
You're not...
You're not Cooper.
The weak shall perish!
Captain, the Undine outside of the sphere are powering weapons. The mammalian ship is still disabled.
Arm all weapons. We will destroy the creatures and then return for the mammals.
I am unharmed, but we are in danger. We are deep within the Delta Quadrant, right where Cooper wanted us. We do not know how long this infiltrator has impersonated Cooper, or the extent of what he has done. However, I am quite familiar with the tactics of Species 8472. We will repel the Undine, and survive to warn the Alpha Quadrant of the renewed threat.
Finally, a worthy adversary for my new ship.
There's no time to dwell on what just happened. We can get our bearings later. First, we're going to have to deal with the Undine as they flood through the breach they've just made. But suffice to say, this can't be a coincidence that 8472 are waiting beyond the sphere's threshold. Cooper must be in contact with his species. We activate the Dyson's tactical mode, which shutters off the delicate saucer section scientific equipment and deploys extra phaser emplacements. Well, it does on this version of the Dyson, as the Dyson's appearance depends on the player's faction. If the player is a Klingon Defence Force soldier, then the Klingons headed the Dyson's construction. If it was Romulan, then it looks like a warbird. A nice little shift in power depending on the player's choices here. We've noticeably fought Species 8472 before alongside Admiral Tuvok when we first entered into fluidic space to ascertain why they had renewed their hostility. We discovered the wreckage of Klingon, Starfleet and Romulan vessels, but the ship's whole compositions were slightly off from each species' standard. It had all the markings of a false flag operation, with the Undine being tricked into attacking the Alpha Quadrant powers and proceeding with their planned infiltrations. The Undine bring various ships to the battle from the Nicor bioships, Nicor being a term for a water sprite, analogous with the Dutch Necker or the German Nix. They also deployed the larger Dramias, which may be from the genus of crab Dramia, again with a nautical theme.
This vessel will not defeat them alone.
This ship can take him.
I have experience with the Undine. You do not. They are extremely dangerous.
Yes, the Dyson's reverse-engineered tech does give it an edge, but let's not forget that not even an hour ago it suffered catastrophic power failures and had to withdraw for repairs.
The Lisette is here to provide any assistance you require.
Good timing. The Joint Command must have driven back the Voth on the other side of the gateway and begun to work their way through. The only caveat being is that they'd have to brave the star's corona as we did to get here. Now there's the addition of the Vela-heavy bioships on the Undine side. These larger vessels can create fluidic rifts, and are named not for a villa, as in a home, but for the Slavic nymphs, also called the Vial, similar to the Undine in terms of us. The Lisette is the Republic's flagship, and it powers through the vessels with the aid of the Dyson and the Gold. But the enemy ships seem endless, though if the Romulans are here then surely others cannot be too far behind.
Three battleships? That may be a problem.
We hold here. None of the Undine get through.
The Fortescue is here. Now the real fight can begin.
Finally, it's not like the Klingons to miss a fight. Together, the Republic, Starfleet and the Klingons fight against the interdimensional threat with phaser fire and disruptor beams. The Dyson represents the potential gain in innovation and technology from the Solani Dyson Sphere, and the whole reason for this joint command. Because of this trove of research, the three powers have been winding down their aggression against one another in hopes of all prospering from its wealth. But the power balance is tenuous.
Is that it? We wanted more of a fight.
It is not over yet. 2 Undine dreadnoughts are approaching.
2 Tethys bio-dreadnoughts, and they are based on the same 3-hulled design as the smaller bioships and the Undine themselves. This name is taken from the Greek titan Tethys, the goddess of the font of water and wife of Oceanus, a fitting name for one of the most powerful ships created by the inhabitants of fluidic space. While the IRW Lisette holds them in place with tractor drones, we're able to pummel the dreadnought with our own arsenal.
Good to see you. We would have arrived sooner, but there was a Voth fleet in the way.
No problem, Jarek. Make it up to me. Say, lunch?
Congratulations on a successful mission. Now the Romulan Republic will take over.
So
We'll
what?
set up a command center for further operations. I'm sure Command will contact you when your presence is needed.
I think you'll find that this is the Jenolan Sphere. You know, Jenolan as in the USS Jenolan and the USS Enterprise. Starfleet's Discovery. Don't think you've got the authority to do that.
No, this ends now. Our generosity to the Romulans can only extend so far. The Klingon Empire claims this Dyson Sphere as its own. Starfleet and the Republic would be wise to keep their distance. Or else.
Well, I've already pointed out that this sphere is technically already under study by the Federation, but that didn't go over well, so let's instead point out that there's no reason the Joint Command could not extend to cover this sphere too.
Oh? Are you prepared to back that statement with action? The Klingon Empire has restrained itself again and again in an attempt to maintain this alliance with the Romulans. I think it's time I remind you of what happens when a Klingon loses patience.
Oh, I've had plenty of experience dealing with impatient Klingons. I'm just saying the alliance could continue.
Fighting over this sphere is not an option. It would divide our strength. Precisely what would benefit the Undine. The Voth chose to fight instead of cooperate. They were destroyed. We can choose not to be enemies. It is time we did so.
Exactly. The Voth stood alone and they're dead.
The Klingon Empire will not sit and wait while the Federation and Romulans continue to claim these powerful weapons for themselves. This conversation is not over.
I mean, I can see her point of view, sat here as I am in the USS Dyson. Commander Jarek?
The Romulan Republic will continue to take responsibility for areas within our jurisdiction, but I do not wish to cause a rift in what has been a successful joint action.
It is a miraculous situation Titan has created. Neutrality with both sides.
However, I will not be put in a position where I must choose between the Federation and the Klingon Empire. We have agreements on both sides that must be honored. Sub-Commander Cole can handle the details. I am a ship captain, not an administrator.
Good point. Let's let the politicians talk this out while us lowly grunts get a drink.
Cooper's departure has lifted the miasma in my mind, an affliction that I did not even realize was there. He was influencing me. He used the psychic abilities of the Undine to influence my thoughts, and the results are an effect of my failure. I should have been able to detect his influence.
So Cooper, or whoever, has been subtly altering your decisions. Right, what will you do now?
We have fulfilled our mission to neutralize the jump capabilities of the Solanae Sphere, only to open up a gateway that the Undine can now use to reach our space. They will no longer have to create rifts from fluidic space. Was this Cooper's plan all along? I suggest we return to Sub-Commander Cole. We must attempt to save the fragile peace of the Alliance.
The sphere is under Federation control.
This sphere is only accessible through an Alliance-controlled gateway.
Then perhaps it is time to end this alliance.
This is neither the time nor the place for this.
Commander Jarok is correct. The Undine are a threat to us all. Now they have direct access to our space. I propose a summit. We must decide together what we must do to protect the Alpha Quadrant. Our disputes may need to be put aside in the face of a greater enemy. I volunteer to mediate these talks. Dr. Cooper manipulated me to achieve his goals. It is only logical that I take responsibility for what has happened here.
Very well, Vulcan. We will finish this later.
So, while the Voth have been driven back, the Undine have played their hand again and revealed that we've been unwittingly exposing them to every step of our progress. The Solanae Dyson Sphere has been under Alliance control because every species wanted a slice, and the Republic was able to leverage its territorial claim and neutrality with both Starfleet and the Empire to mediate the research and development from its study. But the Jenolan Sphere is a different story. The Federation has already been studying it for 40 years, but now it's moved to unclaimed territory, so do we still hold ownership of it? Even then, its jump across the galaxy proves that although Starfleet says they have a claim on it, we cannot claim to control nor understand it. And while the Republic has grown to a moderate power rivaling the former Star Empire, the Klingon advance has stagnated somewhat, so Corrin's aggression is understandable. As for Cooper, let's review when he could have been replaced. First, we met him on Omicron Kappa, where he was studying the Borg nanovirus to counteract it, when a breach contaminated the planet and signalled the Borg. The Undine showed up there to cleanse the infestation, as it were, and during the course of the mission we were separated from Cooper. However, upon discovering him, he was still unnerved by his experiences, but calm enough to suggest returning to the transport pattern enhancers to beam out. I didn't notice any actual change in his persona at the time, as he acted as if he remembered our prior interactions and the transporter enhancers, so I don't believe he was replaced then. Our second encounter with him was when Admiral Tuvok assembled the Fluidic Space Task Force and we entered. He was aboard the USS Venture at the time, which was separated from us and destroyed. We rescued the survivors from escape pods, including Dr. Cooper. This time he was clearly panicked and claiming that the Undine were too strong and that we were all weak, something Species 8472 are fond of pointing out.
We shouldn't have invaded their space. They're so strong. We're weak. Please take me out of here.
I think this is when he was replaced, as it's after this point that he was acting far more cowardly than his initial appearance would suggest, as if he were performing how he thought a human should act in dangerous situations. While not unreasonable, he did just lose his ship, this attitude continued, and from then on he was glued to Admiral Tuvok's side for the most part. Present at the activation of the new Romulan gateway and party to the reactivation of the network, where he then had unrestricted access to the data we copied from the mainframe. From there he discovered the possible connection between the Delta and Alpha quadrants and set about establishing a beachhead for the Undine. Of course, we may never know in truth when Cooper was replaced, but now that he is gone, we are forced to face the harsh truth that the Klingons were right. The Undine were present in greater numbers than we thought, and Starfleet didn't listen. It seems the politicians will have a lot to talk over, and Tuvok's summit is sure to change things. For better or worse, we'll have to see. And I hope you'll be there to join me and the crew of the USS Armiger for the next part of the ever-expanding narrative of Star Trek Online. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time. I've been Rick, and goodbye.